You ever get to a point where everything inside you goes silent?
Tyler. One too many times.
And not because you found peace, but because something inside you has simply shut down. It's not the kind of silence you search for in meditation. It's the kind that scares you, because you're not sure if what's missing is still retrievable.
This brings back memories, Tyler. I remember it vividly. The numbness, not sadness, not even anger, just emptiness. Like life was happening around me and I was underwater. I would smile at people and walk away, only to forget what we just talked about. Like my memory was just folding in on itself. I wasn't present. I was performing. And every performance took a little more out of me.
You know, Denise, it's like people ask how you're doing, and you've rehearsed it. I'm good. I'm just tired. I'm managing. But inside, you're screaming. I'm falling apart and I can't find the ground. The worst part, nobody knows, because you've become so skilled at hiding your unraveling that even you stop noticing.
These are the important things. These moments that we don't talk about enough. Not the ones that break us, but the ones that dissolve us quietly, completely, without announcement. It's not always the big tragedies. Sometimes it's the accumulation of everything we never process. The tiny betrayals, the silent grief, the weight of being strong for too long.
Do you ever cry without any tears?
I sure have, Tyler. One too many times. And I know I'm not the only one. Maybe someone listening right now is doing this today.
Have you ever sat fully dressed at the edge of your bed, keys in your hand, and never left the house?
I did that for weeks. Every morning, thinking, maybe tomorrow I'll feel like myself again. But tomorrow never came, because I didn't even know who myself was anymore. I made all the excuses. I convinced myself it was just burnout, that I needed rest, a break. But the truth? I'd been carrying silent grief for years. Losses I never mourned, dreams I buried, and expectations I never signed up for. I was grieving versions of me I never got to be. I was grieving the girl who smiled through pain so convincingly that no one thought to ask, "Are you really okay?"
You're still here, listening, feeling, holding on. So let me ask you something before we go deeper. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and saw someone worth saving? Because maybe, just maybe, that's where we begin next.
You asked, when was the last time I looked in the mirror and saw someone worth saving? Truth is, Tyler, I stopped looking for a while, because every time I did, I didn't see a person. I saw a list of flaws, a record of failures, a walking apology.
I know that feeling, Denise. Where your reflection doesn't greet you, it interrogates you. Why aren't you further? Why can't you hold it together? Why are you still not enough?
I started believing that pain meant punishment, that if I was hurting, it must be because I deserved it. And worse, I thought I had to keep hurting to make up for the times I didn't speak up, the times I let things slide, the times I stayed silent instead of choosing myself.
We carry guilt like it's armor, but really it's a weight. One that bends our posture, like our voice and our self-worth.
And I was tired of bending, tired of looking in the mirror and seeing only what was missing. So I started asking myself, what if I'm not broken? What if I've just been looking through the wrong lens?
You were never meant to be a masterpiece in progress. You're not a project. You're a person, a soul, alive and healing.
And if the mirror has lied to you too, if it's convinced you that you're hard to love, I hope today starts to rewrite that story. Because you are not what happened to you. You are who you're becoming in response to it.
And maybe what you see next time you look in the mirror won't be perfection. It'll be proof. Proof that you're still becoming, still here, still enough.
There were days I couldn't even brush my hair without criticizing myself. Days I avoided photos, not because I didn't like how I looked, but because I didn't recognize who I had become.
That hits. Sometimes I would walk past a mirror in a hallway and glance the other way, because if I looked too long, I'd have to admit how far I'd drifted from who I wanted to be.
And that drift, it's subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, hey, you're losing yourself. It just slowly pulls you away from joy, away from softness, away from the version of you that used to dream and dance and laugh without watching the room.
Yeah, the version of me that used to get excited about sunrises, that made playlists, that texted people just to say, "You good?" I buried him under guilt, under grief, under a performance I didn't audition for.
So I started asking different questions. Instead of, what's wrong with me? I asked, what's weighing me down? Instead of, why can't I be happy? I asked, what have I believed that tells me I don't deserve it?
I love that, because it shifts the power. It reminds you, your identity isn't based on pain. Your reflection is not the enemy. It's an invitation.
An invitation to remember who you were before the pain, before the pressure, before the lie.
Let me ask you this question.
Of course, Tyler.
When did you start seeing yourself again? Like, really? Not the story, not the shame, just you.
It was the first time I looked in the mirror and said, I'm still here. Not, I'm healed. Not, I'm happy. Just, I'm still here. And somehow that was enough.
Sometimes survival is the beginning of becoming. And the mirror becomes less of a battleground and more of a window back to your soul. So let me ask you this. If you looked in the mirror tonight, would you see a problem to fix or a person still becoming? Because as we continue here together, as you're still listening, this is where we start to reclaim everything. The little moments, the small wins, the first breath that doesn't hurt. Let's go there now.
The first breath that doesn't hurt. It didn't feel like joy. It felt like quiet. A moment where the noise in my head didn't win.
Yeah, people think becoming is loud, that it's a triumphant rise, a roar, a spotlight. But for me, it was a whisper. A moment I sat on the edge of my bed and didn't feel the weight of disappearing. That was it, just one morning. I didn't want to disappear.
My first shift? I drank a glass of water, that's it. But something about choosing hydration over self-neglect. It felt like a declaration. I still matter, even if no one sees me. Even if no one realizes I exist.
I remember the first time I went outside just to feel sunlight. Not to go anywhere, not to perform, just to stand in it. And that warmth, it hit different. Like the universe saying, welcome back.
You know what's funny though, Tyler? The beginning of becoming doesn't look like healing. It looks like ordinary things finally meaning something again.
Exactly, Denise. It's wiping your face with a warm towel and realizing you deserve softness. It's changing your bed sheets, washing your hair, buying the fruit you actually love.
And the way you talk to yourself, it starts to shift. the inner critic softens. The language becomes kinder. You stop saying to yourself, "I'm such an idiot." And instead, "I didn't know better, but I'm learning." You stop believing you're too much and start embracing, "My depth is a gift." You replace "I'm so far behind" with "I'm moving and that's enough."
That shift, that's becoming.
The story changes when the voice in your head becomes a companion, not a critic. You begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, you are not hard to love. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to love you.
Oof, say that again.
You are not hard to love. You just needed a safe place to be seen. And now, you're building that place inside you.
And it shows in the way you protect your peace, in the way you stop apologizing for existing,
In the way you rest without guilt. In the way you laugh again. Not out of politeness, but from your gut.
That's becoming, not loud, but undeniable.
It's the bloom after the burial, the softness after the storm, the hand you hold in the dark when no one else is there.
The moment you tell your reflection, "I don't hate you anymore."
And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to love you.
So let me ask you something. What's one thing, one tiny thing you can do today that says, "I choose me"? And since you're still here with us,
This is where we start walking in that choice, not just talking about becoming, but living like we already are. You ever have a moment where you look in the mirror and don't flinch? Not because you love everything you see, but because, for the first time, you recognize yourself.
it's like the fog starts to clear. You're not seeing a project to fix. You're seeing a survivor, someone who's been through war and is still standing.
I used to pick myself apart. Every wrinkle, every scar, every perceived flaw. But that day, I saw softness in my eyes. A quiet strength I forgot I had.
The world teaches us to measure our worth in productivity, in perfection. But becoming teaches us something different, that our presence has value, even when we're not performing, even when we're just being.
I stopped chasing applause and started chasing alignment. Does this feel like peace? Does this version of me feel honest?
I realized I didn't want to be impressive anymore. I wanted to be real, and that meant letting go of the masks I'd been wearing to feel accepted.
And you start redefining strength. It's not holding everything together. It's falling apart and still choosing love, still choosing yourself.
You begin to speak differently, not louder, just clearer, more honest. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to remember.
The little girl in me, she didn't need fixing. She needed protection. She needed kindness.
The little boy in me, he wasn't weak for crying. He was strong for still feeling.
And now we give them that, the safety they never had, the voice they lost, the care they were missing.
That's the rebirth. It doesn't scream. It whispers, "You're allowed to come home to yourself now."
Not a new you. Just the you that existed beneath all the pain, all the pleasing, all the pretending.
And suddenly, you walk differently. You forgive differently. You love differently. Not from fear, but from freedom.
And you begin to notice things you missed before. The way your shoulders soften when you're not trying to impress. The way laughter sounds when it's unfiltered. The way silence becomes safe because you're no longer at war with yourself.
You reconnect with the smallest parts of who you are. The parts that love sunsets, that sing in the car, that light up when your favorite song comes on.
The parts you silenced to survive, the ones you buried to belong, the child in you that once felt free.
This is what reclaiming your identity feels like. It's not about shouting, "Look at me." It's about whispering, "I see me."
And little by little, the shame falls away. The labels, the guilt, the weight that never belonged to you. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop shrinking to fit rooms that never honored you.
And for the first time, maybe ever, you feel safe being you.
So, let me ask you something. If you gave yourself full permission to be you, what would that version of you look like? Because chapter 5, that's where we stop carrying shame and start owning our story. And that changes everything.
If you've made it this far, it means you haven't given up on yourself. Even when it felt easier to disappear. Even when it hurt to keep going. You didn't quit, you paused, you breathed, and that breath, that was enough.
I want you to know something. Every tear you've cried in silence, every smile you faked just to get through the day, it all matters. It's all part of your becoming.
You were becoming when you let yourself rest, when you finally said no, when you broke down in your car but still showed up, when you forgave someone who never apologized.
You were becoming when you spoke kindly to your reflection, when you ate even though you didn't have the energy, when you chose solitude over toxic company.
Becoming doesn't always look like healing. Sometimes it looks like survival. Sometimes it's messy, quiet, exhausting. But it's still sacred.
I used to think I had to earn my healing, that I had to fix myself before I could be loved. But the truth is, I was never broken. I was becoming.
Same. I kept thinking, once I'm strong again, then I'll deserve rest. But becoming taught me, rest is what builds strength. Softness is what carries power.
And peace isn't a destination. It's a decision. To release the shame, to stop explaining your healing, to trust that you are enough, even when no one claps.
This is the truth. You didn't fail. You grew. You didn't break. You bent toward light.
You didn't fall behind. You were learning to walk with new legs, with a softer heart, with a deeper knowing of who you are.
So if today still feels heavy, that's okay. You're still becoming, and there's no timeline for that.
Healing isn't linear. Some days you soar, some days you sink. But if you're still breathing, you're still rising.
And we're walking with you, not ahead of you, with you, every step, every pause, every breath.
So let me ask you, if you believed, truly believed, that you were never broken, how would you show up tomorrow? Because this isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of the one where you come home to yourself. The one where you stop surviving and start living.
You were never broken. You were becoming. And becoming is the bravest thing you'll ever do.
We're proud of you. And we'll be here, every episode, every moment, reminding you that your journey matters.
You belong here.
You always have.
And hey, let this land. Even if no one's told you lately, you're doing better than you think.
Even if no one has clapped for you, we will. Right here. Right now. Because your becoming deserves to be celebrated.
You're not late. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're blooming in your own time.
And if your healing still feels slow, don't rush it, hold it, honor it, because there's beauty in slow becoming.
And in the quiet moments, when it feels like nothing's changing, that's where the deepest shift is happening.
So keep breathing, keep unfolding, keep choosing you. Let's keep becoming together.
Take a breath with us. You made it through this story, not just by listening, but by feeling, by remembering who you are beneath the noise.
If today still feels heavy, that's okay. You don't have to carry it alone. This space was made for you to return to rest in, to rebuild inside of.
And if no one's told you lately, we see you. We're with you. We believe in who you're becoming.
If this episode gave you something real, a moment of peace, a spark of truth, a breath that felt safe,
then share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear they're not alone.
and if it reached you, let us know. We'd love to hear. What part of this stayed with your heart?
Like this episode, subscribe so you never miss the next one.
And drop a comment. Let's keep the conversation open. Let your truth breathe too. We're reading, we're listening, we're healing with you. Until next time, be kind to yourself. Be patient with your journey. You're doing better than you know.
We'll be right here when you're ready to return. Let's keep becoming together.
Before you go, I have a special song written just for you.
I was running through the silence, hiding from the sound of me. Every mirror told a story of someone I couldn't believe. I broke when no one saw me. Shattered pieces on the floor. Whispered prayers in midnight shadows, asking who I'm doing this for. But I was falling just to find my feet, facing demons I swore I'd never meet. From broken to breathing, from aching to healing, I found myself in the fall. I held a heart I didn't know, one full of blame and fear, but love begins in truth's reflection. Even when the pain feels near, and now I'm rising, still scared, still trying. But softer in my strength, peace doesn't shout, it speaks in quiet steps I take. I was falling, but I learned to fly, facing pain that taught me how to cry. From silence to singing, from breaking to being, I found my truth after all. I was running through the silence, hiding from the sound of me. Every mirror told a story of someone I couldn't believe. I broke where no one saw me, shattered pieces on the floor. Whispered prayers in midnight shadows, asking who I'm doing this for. But I was falling just to find my feet, facing demons I swore I'd never meet. From broken to breathing, from aching to healing, I found myself in the fall. I held a heart I didn't know, one full of blame and fear, but love begins in truth's reflection. Even when the pain feels near, now I'm rising, still scared, still trying a song, but softer in my strength. Peace doesn't shout, it speaks in quiet steps I take. I was falling, but I was learned to fly, facing pain that taught me how to cry. From silence to singing, from breaking to being, I found my truth after all.